Hello and welcome to the Legacy Crusaders blog channel. My name is Benji. I run a channel called Legacy Crusaders. It has about 4,200 subscribers. This channel, on the other hand, is listed as the blog channel. It has about 80 subscribers. I don't really post here anymore, and I wasn't going to, and the reason was that I was going to try and post that type of content on either members-only section of the Legacy Crusaders channel or on the Patreon page for give reason, you know, because this stuff is not the stuff that people who go to the Legacy Crusaders channel want to see. But what we're doing today is we're going to go over my Infernoid deck profile. This is hand trap heavy Infernoids. It's not lair Infernoids. A brief reason I don't play lair Infernoids is because I want to play hand traps this format. I find hand traps are very effective. And I want to use them. Now, people say that they're not effective enough, and you're right, against some decks they're not, and you can decide accordingly. So other than like Emancipator, where it feels like hand traps do nothing, unless you play a ton of them, which is what's going on here, they're fairly effective. Pretty much all Halki Fibrax combos just get negated by one hand trap, so that's the goal. And then we try an OTK. So this is a going second deck, hand trap, OTK. I'm not playing lair because I'm playing so many hand traps that Monster Gate is useless, and if a Monster Gate is useless, lair is not good enough for me. So that's the reasoning behind it. I'm going to go through the deck list, and I will be assuming that you know what the text of every card is. I will be addressing ruling concerns that players don't know. So I'm just going to be posting my own deck list. This is what I'm playing at the moment. Things are changing. I haven't had to play any real events. I play online mostly at the moment. Whenever events occur again and I start playing, you know, things will change. But the Edo Pro meta is, you know, wacky and weird, so my deck list is not, you know, tested against the most meta things. I have played against some meta stuff. I've been playing against some new meta stuff. That's part of something that comes up on Edo Pro. You learn what people are going to play, because they play some really cool stuff sometimes. Anyway, so I'm going to start with the hand traps just to get them out of the way, because there's a lot of them. I'm playing 2 Ash. I mean, I could just play 3 Ash. I don't really care if I open Ash specifically. I just don't like to play too many copies of cards that can be activated once per turn. So it's 2 Ash, that's 2 hand traps so far. I'm playing 2 Effect Veiler, and the reason I'm playing 2 Effect Veiler is because I really just need to play 1 Effect Veiler to go into Selene. But I play 2, and it's better than like Ash in the sense that you can use more than once per turn. But I play the Selene access code talker combo, and I want to be able to Halki Fibrax into a Effect Veiler, and then link into Selene Master of Magicians. I forget her exact text on her name. But that's why there's 2 of these in here. I mean, it could be 3. I play 1 DD Crow because I like the option of being able to hit that area of my opponent's game on the first turn if I'm going second. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It could just be 3 Veiler. It could be 3 Ash. It doesn't really make a difference. I just personally like DD Crow. Like, I don't dislike it. It doesn't really matter. Now I'm playing 2 Gizmek, which technically isn't a hand trap, but it's fine. It's sort of a hand trap in the sense that if you go to your opponent's end phase on turn 1 and you summon it, it's a threat they have to deal with on the following turn. You can use it to pop a card. The real reason I use it is because once I empty my deck of all my Infernoids, my deck is just a bunch of dead draws, so what I'd rather do is just summon Gizmek over and over again and just eat my deck. It gives you a recurable body, because my problem with a lot of Infernoid builds is they're designed to win immediately, and if they fail, they lose. So I don't want to fail and lose. So this is an alternative win condition, an additional opportunity to win the game. Because I play 0 Boros, so it, like, after you try to kill using like Access Code Talker or Borosword Dragon, it's an alternative way to win. If you summon Borosword and go into battle phase, you get to summon this from your hand, and your opponent, like, you know, didn't Nibiru you. So there's some cool things you can do with it in that sense. Yeah. Alright, so there's 2 of those, so I will call them hand traps. And because your opponent has to play around it and deal with it. I mean, it's not the best hand trap, but it is a hand trap. I'm playing 3 Phantasmes, my 3rd one's in the mail. These let me hedge my bets against going first and second. So what happens if you go first and you open Void Feast? This lets you dig for a Void card if you didn't have one to resolve Feast. If you're going second, it lets you sculpt your hand to break their board. So counting these as hand traps, we have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Technically, Lava Golem is it's a going second card is sort of a hand trap. It just outs 2 threats that get created by letting them make their play. So unless they make like a card that says you can't special summon, Lava Golem is a perfectly acceptable hand trap. So I'll do another count again in a minute because I already forgot the number. I play 1 token collector, which is good if you draw it, but at the same time I also play Void Apocalypse, so I could just send it to the graveyard. So if I'm made to go first, this is a card I could just send to the grave, but if I open it, it's still a hand trap. But not every deck is playing the Halki Fibrax combo or going into Auroradon or summoning tokens, but a lot of them are, so, or Link Cross. So even Altergeist go into Link Cross. So if you just send this to your grave and your opponent tries to make Link Cross for Halki Fibrax, you can summon this, it kills the tokens that they have, while at the same time giving you a tribute for your Infernoids. So that's another hand trap. 3 Gammas. Driver's not a hand trap, but you have to play it. Play the Gammas. The Phantasma can sometimes conflict with the Gamma, but that's okay. It also somewhat conflicts with the Impermanence. But you can use these first, or if you draw into them, you can either put them back, or you could set them, or just use them if your opponent should clear your Phantasma, because you don't really care about your board. You want your board to be empty so you can resolve your Gammas and your Imaginations. So yeah, Phantasma just digs for the cards you need to break their board. And that means other things kind of count as hand traps as well. So these are all like the going second cards. This is an engine requirement. Terraforming is pseudo hand trap because it's Mystic Mine. 3 Mystic Mines are pseudo hand traps because they like clear my opponent's board. And the rest of these cards, they're going second cards, but I'm going to consider these all hand traps. So if we do another quick count, this is the number of hand traps in this deck. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 23. A third of my deck are cards to stop my opponent from doing anything on their first turn, or if they do establish something, just get rid of their cards. So 23 cards deal with that, and then there's the 1 engine requirement for that. And if you count Void Vanishment, which searches the imagination for a blowout fusion summon, which I also play 3 of those, that's 30 cards. So 30 cards are here to go second. Void Apocalypse lets you 1 dump the token collector. Additionally, it lets you send Decatrons to graveyard, which you can use with Rekindling, which is in here also. So the cards I play that aren't all of these going second cards are cards to spam out Decatrons over and over again. Now they are semi-bricks because getting to Decatron's not guaranteed. If you get Vanishment, Feast, Resolves, or 1 for 1 or things like that, you can get the Decatrons in play. If the Imagination can get them in play, Apocalypse can get them in play. So I just wanted more ways to put Decatron in. I wanted more cards that can maximize like my best monsters. So if I'm going to brick on cards I can't play, it might as well be cards that, if they can be played, are more impactful. So rather than bricking on an Inferno, I'd rather brick on a card that would summon the Decatron again. Not that it does that much, but yeah, so it's 30 cards for going second. 3 more. At the moment I have a Mind Control End. It was like a Metaverse, but again, this is a spell, that's a trap. I don't actively want to play a card that's randomly useful, but taking Appaloosa is kind of nice with Mind Control if your opponent's making it. 1 for 1 just gets Decatron in play. If the Decatrons are in play, the Rekindlings are super broken, and your Halki Fibrax can also summon a Decatron to get it into play, so you can start summoning it. And the Selene combo from the Sky Striker deck, which is you just use Halki Fibrax to get Defect Veiler into Selene, into Access Code, can be done with an additional Atondel or a bigger Infernoid if you have more Infernos to do it with, for 8100 damage with just a Rekindling or Monster Reborn plus Decatron, or something that accomplishes 2 Decatron summons plus Halki Fibrax. And 3 spells, of course. I play 1 Galaxy Cyclone, which is just a out for my own Mystic Mine, as well as potentially back row any Floodgate. I've been playing this card for a long time just as outs for my own Mystic Mine. It's not the best card, and it's probably one of the more questionable cards in here, but I like the idea that I have to play at least 1 out for my opponent's Mystic Mine, should I actually get stuck under it. Because like this plays around Imperial Order, which is kind of cool. Like you can pop Imperial Order from grave. So it has cool features that are useful, but it's a 1 of in a 60 card deck. It does suck to draw it when you don't need it, but at least it's in the deck if you wind up in a game state where you would need it. I'm playing one E-Telly, which, I mean, could be Foolish, because Foolish would give me options to get Gizmek into grave if I wanted it, or Token Collector, but there's nothing else really worth sending. Like, I don't really want to just send in a specific Infernoid that badly. If I do, I have Apocalypse for that, so Foolish would only give me the option to get to Gizmek, and now I'm playing Gamma anyway, so this is just a tuner. A tuner is Haki Fibrax, which potentially is game, so personally I'd rather just play E-Telly. Now the Infernoid monsters, so that's all that. Playing 3 Decatron. Something you may not know is that Decatron, when it's summoned, it takes the name of the monster, it changes its effect with the monster's effect, and it increases its level. So that is a stat modifier. Now, if you negate a monster after... This is a lingering effect. So once it's resolved, the name is officially changed and the effect is officially changed, but the level gain is a stat modifier. When a monster modifies its own stats and it gets effect veilered or negated, the stat modifier goes away. So if I make this Deviati, and then on the next turn my opponent opens Imperm on this, and somehow it lives to the next turn, it's still Deviati, which means if they do trigger a monster effect, I can tribute it. So they can't force me to keep it, or because its effect is Deviati's, I can tribute to negate a monster, whether or not its effect is negated. It becomes level 1, and it'll stay level 1 after that. So on the following turn, use the level 1 Decatron, that's Deviati, so you can still summon other big Infernoids, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to try and address like things like people wouldn't know, rather than the things you should know, which you could just read on the card. But this one might not be obvious, it's like a ruling-related thing. Like Beast King Barbaros. The skill drain. I play 1 Permeus, 1 Antra, 1 Harmadic, 2 Petrula, 1 Sajet, 1 Sitesmoss, 1 Atondel, who's very helpful with an Equimax combo. I'm not playing Equimax, but I'll explain it later. I'm playing 2 Deviati and 2 Inoku, so I kind of play like 2 more Infernoids than most Infernoid decks play. But it's because I don't want my feasts to become shitty. So your feast becomes shitty when you draw an Infernoid. So I want good Infernoids in my deck. You're going to draw Infernoids occasionally anyway, in a 60-card deck even, but I only play like 2 more than most people play. I play like some of them just play, they wouldn't play the Permeus and the Antra, so I'm playing those. And maybe the Harmadic if they want to be really, really stingy with monsters. And they play few monsters because they're bricks, they don't want to brick on them. I'm playing triple feast, and personal tech is Void Purification. This is because I play Mystic Mine, and that's what I'm digging for. I'm trying to lock my opponent under it. I even side cards to put my opponent under Mystic Mine. In a slow game state, this card is broken. You just, if you control a non-Infernoid, it sends itself to the grave, which is why it's mediocre in that sense. But let's say I have Void Feast and Purification, and I still set up a board. I can still set it. If they kill my monsters, I can activate it. And if I want to use my feast, I can still flip it, because until it resolves, its effect that sends it to the grave hasn't resolved yet. I can then use it for feast, so it's not like it's dead if I summon Gizmek or something. But what I usually do is I lock my opponent under mine, and then during their standby phase, I can add Inferno from my graveyard to my hand, and during my standby phase, I can return a banished Inferno to my graveyard. So if I have Rekindlings, putting them back in the graveyard is a good thing. If my opponent's locked in their Mystic Mine, I can just normal Decatron, pop a card on their draw phase, tribute it to banish a card in their graveyard. Actually, preferably I would do that during their standby phase, and that way, if they try to call by the grave, I can flip this over in response and use its effect to add the targeted Infernoid to my hand, negating the call by the grave, or making the call by the grave resolve without effect. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, and usually, like, this card, I'm always comfortable if my deck has this card in it or on the field. So if you try to make a push and it fails, this lets you recoup all the Infernoids to take another stab at it. So that's why I like this card. I understand people not wanting it to play it, don't play it. But with Rekindling, with 1-for-1, Imagination, Void Feast, it's still just a Void card, so Void Feast, just more Void cards, makes it more live. But I feel like my view is a little blurry here, let me fix that. I forgot what I was saying. Alright, so it's still a Void card, so you can still use it for Void Feast. I do search it under Mystic Mine if I can't make a push, because if your opponent doesn't have an extra deck monster and you Mystic Mine them, then you have to play Void Feast to out their board, and you can't just activate Void Feast and then like play through your own Mystic Mine, guaranteed. You can summon Decatron and mess with their board a lot while you're waiting for them to go into the extra deck, or until you can out your own mine and kill them. So it's just a way to play under those scenarios. Let me show you my extra deck. I'm playing one Almirage. I play Almirage because I want my Decatrons to be able to resolve successfully and still get them off the board if their level becomes too high. So that's why I don't play Linkuriboh. Linkuriboh takes advantage of, if your first Decatron does get negated, you can make it so your other ones don't get negated in the future by using Linkuriboh to tribute them off the field. Alternatively, you can also tribute off like a Sphere Mode if your opponent gives it to you. That's happened to me a couple times. My opponent Sphere Moded me after a Void Feast so they can make their play, and then on my turn, I have a level 10 monster on my board. I can't get rid of it, except by making Almirage, because it's a 1,000 attack power. It's a zero attack monster that was normal summoned, because Sphere Mode is a normal summon. So it gives you an out for that. Gravity Controller is just a way to get rid of Tiara if you make it. If you didn't have to use Banishment, you can go into Gravity Controller. Usually just tribute it off. You can also spin their monster in their extra monster zone. Every once in a while I see like I'm playing online, so I'm gonna see some goofier matchups, but I'll play against like the Necroz deck, and they'll link summon the Nepthys, I think, link, which says that it can't be like killed in any way, and this is a way to like send it back to the extra deck rather than killing it. Alternatively, for getting rid of it, I have like summoned Doolittle Chimera, then Nightmare Phoenix, and then Akashic Magician to bounce it, but they have to put it in this zone to do that. So they're like, that's just something worth knowing you can do. So yeah, Gravity Controller. Akashic Magician is for a specific play where you summon off of Feast Decatron, Sajet, Decatron, and then whichever extra monster zone they have occupied, you take the other one. So let's say they have this one. I'm going to make Akashic over here with Sajet and Decatron, and bounce the Decatron back to my hand to re-normal summon it. And I'm actually going to then try and summon a Phoenix by just summoning one of the Infernoids back from the grave. To pop a card and draw a card. And then I also can use Akashic's second effect to actually call a card in my deck, and if it's in the top 2 cards with the Phoenix here, or 4 cards with the Boral Sword Dragon is here, I can look at the top 2 or 4 cards depending on what monster's here and call any card in my deck beforehand. I'll call Rekindling, and then I'll look at the top 2 or top 4, and if there's any Rekindlings there, I get to add them to my hand. I mean, you can call other cards, and every once in a while I'll call Monster Reborn if I need a specific monster, and I'm also trying to mill Gizmek, so it gives me a shot to add Rekindling, which is Soul Charge, because obviously if you did this play, you most likely resolve Feast, or you did Imagination at some point. So I'll take shots at getting Rekindling or Gizmek to my hand. Boral Sword's just in here for OTK option. This is probably, these are like the most cuttable cards in my extra deck at the moment, because I kind of have too many win conditions, but the problem is they're all link 4s, so I might want to put Equimax in place of the Boral Sword, because I'm not playing it, and I might want to put in Hida instead of the Phoenix. I haven't committed to how I want to do that. Now the reason the Phoenix is in here is because it points up with the Akashic play. I have played Security Dragon in the past. That play is really good, by the way, so just really referencing it. I saw it in some YCS top deck list. I don't remember whose play it is. One Doolittle Chimera, easiest way to victory. Could replace the Doolittle with the Hida, but Doolittle is like the easiest way to end a game, so I don't want to like give up the easiest like end game ending play. Yeah, so for Halki Fibrax, you just Decatron and any other monster, or any hand trap and an Infernoid. Just go into this, summon Valor, link the Halki Fibrax into the Selene. Selene will probably have 3 spell counters. Revive the Valor, link up into either Access Code Talker or Zero Boros. Zero Boros is like another reason I'm playing the Gizmek, because it's very easy to have this thing get a ton of attack points if you have Gizmek in play, and also gives you the option to banish the whole board, not set off floating effects. Soon the Prank Kids Link 1 will come out, and then you'll be playing against boards that can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and this will just out everything. Even if they like activate the Quick Play Fusion or Link card, they'll summon it, and if they do the Link, they'll go to this zone, and even if they activate the Grave effects, because he's mandatory, he has to be Chain Link 1, so there are things are optional. If they summon the guys from the deck, then they just get banished, and then this comes back on your standby phase. The Access Code Talker play, since he comes out of 53, just a Tondel or Deviati or Inoku with it. It's should be game, because Access will pop a couple cards. I play Omega and 2 Nates, because I put in the additional win conditions, so I cut one of my Natesses. I'm not playing Extravagance, so I don't need 3 Tiara. I have 2 Tiara, 2 Nates, and Omega. If I have like 2 Imaginations, the goal is on the first Tiara, I'm going to send 2 Nates and Omega. And if I'm locked under Vanishment, one of them has to pop Tiara, but otherwise you pop 2 of their cards, you go into Gravity Controller, summon a Infernoid, and tribute this one off, and then use the other Imagination and fuse again after you summon 2 guys. Also, Omega would put back one of the Natesses into the extra deck, so when you summon this a second time, you could still send it again and pop their cards. So that is my full main and side and extra deck. I'm just going to go over my side deck real quick, and I'm going to cut this off here. And if you want to see the deck in action, I will be posting gameplay in the future. First thing, is probably the most important thing to get out of this video, is Pop-Up is one hell of a card. It is a common from Duelist Alliance that says if your opponent controls a card in their field zone and you do not, you can activate a field card from your deck, and you can only use one. You can only activate one Pop-Up per turn. So I forgot about the once per turn thing, but it still doesn't change that this is a really good card for any deck that plays a field spell. That's Subterror, Salamangreat, Invoked, the new Numeron stuff. This is going to be a way to deal with it because it's quick play. So if they activate the Numeron thing and they go into S0, Utopic Future, or whatever it's called, Hope Zexal, you can just chain this to Zexal and activate Mystic Mind from the deck. Can't Ash it because it doesn't add to hand or send summon from deck or send a grave, so you just do that. If you open Mine and Pop-Up, you can activate Mine, and if your opponent pops it, you can like hold one of these in your hand and like activate it before the turn ends, another one. So I had a game where I opened 3 of these. So I opened 2 of these in Mystic Mine. I activated Mystic Mine, I set one of these, because they're playing Salad, I put him on Rage to pop 2, and I kept one in hand. And then he didn't, so I had to set other bluffs, but the idea was if he killed the mine, I still had Pop-Up to give him another, put up another mine. So 3 Mystic Mine, Pop-Up for Mystic Mine, 1 red reboot for trap decks. I play Witch's Strike, but it's partially because I don't have Lightning Storms. I could test them, just because, you know, we're in lockdown, I have proxies. But Witch's Strike I like, just, it's good against any deck that has to negate activations to win. The win condition of Subterrors, Altergeist, and like Infernoids are negate the activation, then press for game. So if you let the trap deck go first and just set their negates and then set these, you just have to put something out that they will negate on the following turn, because odds are they can't kill you right away. So you just set these if you draw them, set up something they have to negate, and then when they do, you kill all their cards and you just win because they can't play with so few cards. The reason I play Infernoids is because I can play out of the graveyard, so if you do clear my board, I'm not done. The game isn't over. Alright. At the moment, I have a lot of 2-ofs here, and it's because I haven't decided what for sure I think is the best, because it would probably be better just to play 3-ofs. But Chalice plays around Dweller, Calamities, and all these quick play effects, Utopic S0. It plays around it better than the Gamma and the Imperms do, but I do play both Gamma and Imperm, so I don't have to play these, but it's a 60 card deck, so more Ouse isn't a bad thing. The Dark Ruler No Mores are for boards that can't be beaten in like any other way, so having this option isn't a bad thing. I have 2 Called by the Grave. This is for when you know your opponent's playing Lancia, which means it usually only comes in in game 3, but I also bring it in against like Eldritch or Sky Striker, where once you eliminate all the monsters, then the deck is dead. So those are there for that. Normally I would play... I don't usually go for Cosmic as my first choice, and I don't really care about banishing people's spells and traps, because my deck does banishing, so if I need to banish something, I can do it alternatively. So I'd rather twin and hit 2 cards and then just start banishing them when I want to, but the Buster Lock is a thing, and one of the decks that does that is Orcust. So if I'm playing against Orcust Buster Lock, I need a way to banish the Buster Destruction Sword rather than destroy it. So that's why I play Cosmic at the moment instead of other ways to out the Buster Lock. So that's the deck list. If you have any questions, ask in the comments. You'll see future videos with the gameplay I've been recording on Edo Pro, and I'll be discussing decisions I made, what I could have done better, my opponent could have done better, just trying to improve my deck. And if I make a change to the deck, I will post those as well. There's a play someone told me with Equimax. Now, I don't play Equimax in this build, but I am aware of how the play works, where you summon your Equimax, and then you put 2 Infernoids in front of it. So I'm just going to grab my Almirage for now. So let's say this is Equimax, and you put Sights Moss and a Tondel here. So 26 and 28 is math, 5,400. So 5,400 and a 2,000 Equimax would be 7,400, and you can like attack with it and then tribute it off and then attack your opponent. I'm not playing that, but something someone told me that is a good idea is to just summon the Tondel off to the side to begin with, so he can clear monsters, and then you could still get in with the Equimax for like 4,000 or 5,000, and then still tribute it off and then attack again. So that's something else people don't really consider doing. Now the Gamma and Lava Golem is pretty nice because you can like Lava Golem them and trigger a float, and then chain Gamma. And as far as I know, there are 2 people who've topped with this card in their deck. Myself, I've topped the regional 5th place out of 420 players, and the other player was playing a 60 card Feast Turbo Lair of Darkness thing, and the only reason they played it was the next best Void card at the time. So now I would say the next best Void card is Void Apocalypse. Now the other thing about Monster Reborn in this deck is if you can actually revive Tierra if you're locked under Banishment. So if you use Tierra, then use search Imagination with Banishment, summon Tierra, use Tierras to send Natest, and Natest pops the Tierra, then you summon 2 big Infernoids, and then you can Monster Reborn the Tierra to attack your opponent for game. It's also a way to turn off Mystic Mind. So sometimes you want to use Feast, but you need Mystic Mind to turn off. So what you can do is you can, like, if your opponent has 1 monster on the board, like they link down to it, and you have Mine on the board and you have Feast, you can E-Telly into Gamma, let Mine destroy itself, and then Feast. I mean, you might get Ash at that point, but sometimes you need to push for game. So it gives you some options. You could also do that with the Gizmek. You could just summon it from the grave to change the monster count. If your opponent ever makes the monster count the same, you can always like summon the Gizmek just to have an extra monster, or E-Telly or something. Well, I guess E-Telly wouldn't work because the monster would get banished before the end of the turn, but if you summon the Gizmek and then you have more monsters in your opponent, but it's coming into your turn, you can then link them into something smaller and just crash it, and then they're locked again.